Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 2 finale of My Adventures with Superman. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, we're picking up immediately where the last episode left off, and when things are popping off, obviously, the Jets come in, but as you'd expect, they can't do much. I mean, it's kind of sad. They all get vaporized. But luckily, the heroes aren't alone because, as I thought, John Henry Irons show up. I figured Heatwave and Livewire were going to show up. Was not expecting Silver Banshee and her crew. Like, they're inner gang in this continuity, if I remember correctly. But it's like, yeah, and Sam also pops up, too. Because I guess, like, he recruited the others, or maybe he recruited everyone when stuff started popping off on Earth. But yeah, because he calls them, like, they're the cavalry and everything. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what their future is. Are they going to borderline the anti-hero route? I mean, they're only here because, like, right, Earth needs to be saved, and we're here to save it. And, like, other than that, like, don't push it being like we're friends. But being able to kind of turn to your enemies at times is always kind of that interesting element when a superhero is able to turn his enemies into allies. That's always an interesting thing. So we'll see what that dynamic is like going forward. But despite the circumstances being what they are, Amanda Waller's like, regardless of I didn't always handle it the best way getting to where we are right now, I will protect the Earth because that's what I'm meant to do. And what does Lex do? Lex skedaddles. So we didn't see him for the rest of the episode until the post-credits situation. So, but either way, Kara and Clark are working with everyone else to get towards Brainiac and shut him down. So it's like full squad, full team assault. And Kara and Clark managed to get inside, but Brainiac wanted that because he completely overrides Kara and uses her to attack Clark. And he explains that he is the reason why Krypton got destroyed. Like I said, that varies from continuity to continuity. I don't know where that stems, like, is that like was it a Silver Age or a Gold Age or like whatever age of DC Comics it is, but there's some runs where Krypton's destruction is because of Brainiac, other times it's not. In this particular case, it is. Once again, I always kept debating about the whole Krypton being at war and stuff, but because it's never been something that's ever really been covered in any adaptation I've ever seen. That's always been the thing I thought was so interesting that we never dived too deeply to in this continuity. But yeah, they were at war, and I'm curious, what planet were they at war with? Was it the Daxamites, like in the Supergirl TV show? That's one of the planets Krypton, I mean, that we are aware of. Who knows what other planets, but Daxam and Krypton were definitely beefing, and there was like a lot of resentment there. So I don't know whether there are any other planets they were at war with, and that'd be kind of interesting if that's what they set up, because this could be this show's way to introduce Mon-El if they wanted to. Once again, I don't know if they're going to be so caught up in like, well, Supergirl did that storyline. It's like, well, we don't care. We'll do it. We can do whatever we want to. We can do our own version of it. So I don't know if they're going to bother going down that route or not. Either way. But yeah, like, for Brainiac, it's like, I was built for war, and your father was trying to sneak behind my back and, like, try to make peace talks. He's like, they would have decommissioned me, and it's like, it's an AI's need to survive. It's like, okay, so you don't, like, so what if a few people die, a few children die of Krypton? Who cares? Like, this is what I was built for, and I was meant to win a war, and now that you don't want that anymore, now I'm, like, obsolete. This is what I was made for, and it ended up being their undoing, because it became, like, this, my sole job, my sole existence was the prosperation of Krypton by, like, through war. I mean, that also makes sense why he went rogue as he is, because it's like, oh, you tried to destroy me, so I destroyed Krypton first, and now I'm using that same very tactic of trying to take over these other planets to make a new Krypton in my image, the Krypton that was always meant to be the perfect Krypton that they were too scared to make because they let their Kryptonian emotions get in the way. And so that's what this has all been about. And he's like, I found Kara, I took her in, and now I'm going to make that Krypton a reality. And Clark has to fight Kara even though he doesn't. And I thought that was beautiful imagery of just like him flying through the air, and then like him as a little kid just kind of flying through the air. And I think it's just kind of meant that, all right, let's calm down. Like, this is my home, and it's Kara, it's time for me to bring you home. And refuses to fight her. He reaches out to her, hugs her. So does Lois, so does Jimmy, because it's like, you don't have to do this. You're not alone. Don't let Brainiac's words, because like, you were alone for a long time, but it's like, no, you're not. You're here. You're with family. You're with people you love and care about. The fact of the matter is, as long as you're never alone, as you've got those people who love you, who are here for you. And Kara is able to break free. Her and Clark take the ship into outer space, and they're trying to toss it into the sun, but Brainiac uses the kryptonite he was able to synthesize and morph and fuse it with the ship. He plans on killing both of them. Kara and Clark get blasted a little bit, but Kara mainly flows into the sun. And I love that beautiful image too of like kind of Kara reverted back to like a little girl, and Clark too, and like a Krypton, like it's if, once again, if they fully grew up on Krypton. And it's like, you came after me. He's like, of course, like, your family, but I don't think we're going to be able to escape the gravitational pull. But then Kara starts noticing like the sun giving them energy. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. So in this continuity, I mean, to make, you never really, I would assume it's something Jor-El would always tell Clark, but it's like, that is something that's never been explained in this continuity of like, oh, that's what gives us our power. It makes us stronger. Like, it's, maybe that's something Brainiac knew, or maybe he didn't, because there was no, maybe Brainiac was unaware that the yellow sun is what gives them their powers. I mean, because, I don't know, it's interesting to think about. Because, I mean, there's only, like, 2 Kryptonians around, so you really wouldn't know that. And besides, like, Krypton never really, I mean, it seemed, that might have just them using tech to, like, I don't know if they've ever been to any other planet to, like, benefit. Once again, because I don't know what solar system, like, Krypton is, and is there a yellow sun? Because, like, most continuities never showcase that Krypton ever was aware of, or at least not that I'm aware of, was ever aware of, like, what the yellow sun could do to Kryptonians. So, which does make the question, I'm curious, will they not do the Zod situation in this continuity? I mean, they could if they wanted to, but I'm just curious if they would. I wonder if they probably, is that one storyline they would stay away from just because it's been done so many times. So I'm curious about that, especially like it's been brought back up more recently in the movies because of the Flash movie, even though I haven't seen it, but I know obviously Zod's in it. But like, I'm curious if that's a storyline they're going to stay away from, and instead of like, that's why they made it a Kara storyline instead of making it a Zod storyline and making a Brainiac storyline, especially because like most, like, Brainiac has mainly been a TV and animated thing. Like, obviously, he hasn't made the big screen debut. Maybe that'll change with James Gunn's Superman movie. We'll have to wait and see. But either way, my point was, I think it's so interesting that this is how they found out, like, oh, the yellow sun is what gives us our power. And they basically overcharged themselves. Kind of reminds me of, like, Clark overcharging himself in like the season 2 finale of Superman and Lois. Kind of like, it happens from time to time where Superman will overcharge himself like that in big moments. I mean, obviously, like, you can't do it all the time, because I think it does. I made this reference recently. Well, I referenced it in a different context. It was something else I was talking about, but like Luffy's second gear, like how at first that wasn't a good thing to use that continuously because it took such a big strain on his body. I think overcharging does the same thing for Clark, doesn't it? Or any Kryptonian. Overcharging needs to be like a, in case of emergency situation, because I think it can affect him negatively. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are no negative drawbacks to overcharging, but I assume it'd be too much even for the Kryptonian body to handle on a continuous basis. Every once in a while, once again, break glass in case of an emergency type of thing. But yeah, I love that. And they, in the process, like, they hold hands together and they kind of super punch together. And I love that Kara gets her new outfit, and it is it's obviously meant to be modeled after Clark's outfit. So she's got the pants. Like, I brought it up, I was so curious. At least, like I said, the promotional material that showed her, like, for one, didn't show Clark in his new outfit that he got last episode, but also you only see Kara from like the top and from behind, so you don't get to see what, like, that's why I was like, okay, so is she getting like is she getting the skirt and everything? It's like, no, she's getting pants. So it is a lot closer to like Melissa Benoist's outfit later on. I don't know if she like, once again, my head, when I think of like Supergirl, I do think of like the classic skirt. So there probably are versions of her where she has the pants in the comics, but like my only experience with that is her with the pants from Melissa's portrayal of the character, like season 5 on. Well, for the last 2 seasons, because she gets it like pretty early in season 5, like maybe like the first or second episode of season 5, she gets it. So she has it like all of season 5 and then all of the final season. So, but what I thought was kind of a neat little detail just to distinguish between them, hers kind of collars like a scarf, which it's kind of puffy, like how Brainiac has that like cape of sorts, but it kind of like goes around him like a collar and something. I was like, oh, that's such a neat little like detail. Like Clark's are like in his like, you know, the typical shoulder thing. Hers are like it forms like a big like kind of scarf around. I was like, oh, that's so neat. Kind of, even though they're similar, that way you kind of distinguish hers a little bit more from him. But yeah, they push through super, and once again, very anime beam struggle, even though it's not really beams, but it's like power struggle, whatever the case may be. Burst through the beam, burst through the ship, and it's up to Kara, and it feels befitting for Kara to deal the final blow. And Brainiac slashes her, but she rips out like his mainframe thing. It powers down, and they do keep it at the end. I think it would probably be better to destroy that, but I don't know if that's set up for like, oh, Brainiac could return, or maybe there's something else they could use that for. I don't know. But like Kara's passing out and she's like, oh my God, the Earth, they're cheering for you, Kala. He's like, no, they're cheering for us. Like, you helped save the Earth too. We both did. And she's just like, I've never saved a planet before. And when she passes out and wakes up, which I thought that was kind of beautiful imagery too, of like the bright star in the sky, which is dim, like dimming because like the overcharge is wearing off. But Kara ended up passing out for a couple days. She had the scar on her face from Brainiac. I was like, oh, is she going to keep that? I would assume that would heal. Nope, it eventually does heal, but I thought that was neat. And she's back at the Kent farm. Lois and Jimmy sleeping on the chair. Ma and Pa come to meet her. It's like, oh my God, we're so happy. Like, oh, do you need something? We need to make you soup. And it's just being so welcoming. And then also the situation with Clark and her playing catch, and she's like wanting to win. He's like, you can't win at catch. She's like, then you're doing it wrong. And I love it. It's like, that's so cute. So I was like, I was so curious, like, will Kara stick around? And it seems like she will be. I don't know for how long. Maybe she'll eventually go off and make her own Avengers, but for now she's sticking around on Earth. I mean, it makes sense. Why go out on your, I mean, I know I was bringing it up because I was kind of like, I was hoping she would stick around, but I was like, oh, they probably won't let her stick around. But it's like, right, the only family she has in this universe is here. So, but I love the ending. It feels like this was a series finale, because if someone has to correct me, I believe this show was like, they got like, it was initially, I didn't know this, but I think I didn't know this until like season 1's finale. Like, the show was already like renewed for season 1 and 2. I think that's why we got season 2 so quickly, or maybe we will get season 3 pretty quickly too. But I think they were already working on season 1 and 2. I don't know if like necessarily simultaneously, but I mean, we got season 2 a lot quicker than I thought we would, because a lot of animated stuff is kind of, it takes a long time to get around. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. So it feels like this might have been a series finale. I mean, when you look at it, especially the way the credits roll, maybe season 1's credits rolled the same way, but it felt like this was an end. And I think that's because maybe they weren't sure they were going to get a season 3. They just got the green light, like, well, at least it was publicly announced they got the green light last month. I think the news dropped. I didn't hear about this until like last week, about it getting a 3rd season. But maybe they were like, you know, because I think those announcements come out maybe later. But obviously the team finds out of it first. But usually, I think they usually let the public know around the time the team knows. So maybe they found out and then it got out there. But either way, it just felt like this might have been a series finale. I mean, everyone gathered from the Daily Planet. You got Sam there. You even got Vicky, which I even love Vicky snaped. Even though they've kind of been the Superman squad, that Vicky's the one that got the exclusive from Supergirl, and it pisses off Perry. But I just love like the family gathering at the picnic and stuff like that. So it makes you wonder what, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get well, I was about to say typical, because I don't know what their dynamic is like in the comics, but I'm only basing this on Superman and Lois, how Superman and Sam have a good enough relationship where it's like, all right, let's oh God, what is it I'm thinking of? Let's work together. Also, Does Sam, I would seem is still blissfully unaware that Clark and Superman are the same person. We haven't really had that conversation on screen. I mean, up until now, he still thought they were separate people when he was still in the show. So, like, I don't know if that's changed subsequently. So, but once again, we don't know where the villain status of a lot of like our like hero. Well, obviously, you know, John Henry Irons. I guess he's going to be rocking the whole Steel situation, maybe going forward more. Who knows what that fully turns into? We do know that Waller is on the run, which is so interesting considering, like, well, this publicly blew up in her face, so I'm sure the government like cut ties with her because it's not a good look. Well, she kind of turned Metropolis into a police state. Her technology, the army she was building up to defend Earth, was used against Earth. So now she's public enemy number one, and she's kind of screwed in that regard. So where Sam was on the run, she's now on the run. I don't know what that means for Waller going forward. Like, it probably won't be seeing her for a while, but there's always, like, if a threat comes, she might be the person you have to turn to in this situation. And we see that Lex is obviously, you know, it's like some people grew from the situations, others kind of grew in different directions. So leaning into Lex, I mean, I thought was interesting too. And if you look, he's got like these massive bags under his eyes. So it's like, yeah. And he's got Deathstroke with him. So building up Lex Corp, so definitely setting him up as his future arc to become the Lex Luthor you typically would know, or at least a version of it in this show. But like every other, those are the only future threats we really see kind of set up. So, and obviously, I even love that this even leads me to think it's going to be meant to be, in case they didn't get a season 3, even more of a series finale thing. The Daily Planet report about like, saving the day. It's called My Adventures with Superman, which is like, hey, it's in the title of the show, because it's meant to be like right. It wasn't just Superman and Kara. It was like a unified thing. Again, they weren't alone in saving the world. You know, Kara. Well, going back, Lois has decided not to take Vicky on the whole going to the Gotham Gazette, because for Clark it's like, hey, if you want to do that, like, it's like 5 minutes away. I can, like, there's rooftops we can meet up on. And she's like, you would go back and forth to Gotham from me? He's like, of course, like, all you have to do is call my name. But she's like, I'm not going, because it's a cool opportunity, but I don't want to be the second Vicky Vale. I want to be the first Lois Lane. And it's like, that's the Lois we know, because Lois is just going to be her. It's like, I'm not going to be seconding. I'm just going to continue to be me. Because it's also like, it all played into this season, her being uncomfortable being her. I mean, being her had its complications, like her relationship with her dad, her upbringing, not feeling like she was good enough to be with Clark. But it's like, right. She's like, I want to stay here and work alongside, be the first me, the first Lois Lane, and be there and do it with the man I love by my side. It's like, oh, sweet and beautiful. And then we see Kara and Jimmy, which we don't know if they're dating, but still they're all kicking it and hanging out. So a fire breaks out and they all go flying off together. I was like, that's kind of a beautiful shot in a beautiful way. Like I said, you set up the future, but also, like, if this was going to be the series finale, it's a great series finale and need be, but luckily it's not. We get a season 3. So when I was reading just now, it seems like they immediately jumped into production on season 3. So I don't know, like, whether anything was already, I'm sure they already had ideas going forward, but, you know, I'm sure that, like, we're pre-production, probably, like, writing. Well, I don't know what actually counts as pre-production. I'd assume, like, writing and stuff like that, storyboarding, all that, like, counts as pre-production. I don't know. I don't think that's part of the actual production until, like, the animation and voice acting. That's the production. But I think pre-production is maybe I'm wrong. I don't know enough. But yeah, a beautiful and a lot of open window for setup in the future, because obviously, like I said, we got John Henry Irons doing his thing. We do have Henry Hankshaw, so, like, if we I'd say Henry, well, it's Hank, but Henry, Cyborg Superman is potentially in play. Any other future villains we want to throw in the mix. Like I said, if they want to go down the Zod route, which with the whole Kryptonian thing already, I doubt they will. But, like, other species out there, I mean, they introduced Gotham back in, like, season 1. I don't know if they go down the Batman route. They probably won't. They'll probably keep it all Superman, but there'll be Batman-related stuff. Like, once again, one of the people that I talked about it at the time. The person that Clark was on that like dating show thing. That woman, one of the women there was someone that's typically in the comics. Oh yeah, because I forgot. Like I knew the character from like the show Gotham. That character is typically a love interest of Bruce Wayne. So like you got Vicky Vale. So like there's Gotham stuff, but you probably never get Batman. You know. So they set up, well, he's years from it, not unless it happens a lot sooner, but there's the whole situation of Cyborg has kind of been set up. I mean, we got introduced to his dad, but his dad kind of disappeared like after stuff went down. So he's kind of on the run with his son, but like I said, Vic he wouldn't become Cyborg until like a couple years later. So who knows if they're going to pull on that thread yet, but it's just knowing he's out here in his universe. Obviously perfect opportunity to, especially with Lex and his xenophobia. I'm sure he's going to rally some people behind him in that regard. So there's plenty of aliens we can introduce, like the Martians. So like we can get introduced to Martian Manhunter, or maybe he's secretly been on a planet the entire time and we just didn't know, like type of thing. So I mean, that's perfect too, because like that was one of my, at least like, I don't remember which one did I remember Martian Manhunter for first. Was it Smallville or I'm sure it was probably the animated Justice League series, but obviously like his association with Superman, my association with that is like obviously in Smallville, him just, if I remember correctly, he was a cop, which, once again, funny how that all works. I was about to go down a tangent. It's nevertheless. With the alien element of it all, we could introduce other aliens. We already set up some Green Lanterns. We introduced, like, hey, they're out there in this universe. So we could always get some Green Lanterns. We could always get Martian Manhunter. The Thanagarians seem like they're dead, but it could always be, like, Hawkman and Hawkgirl or somewhere out there, and that could also be something they could deal with in a season 3, the ramifications of Kara destroyed planets. Even if it was Brainiac, she still did it, so that could be something she has to kind of come to terms with, and that could be something she has to deal with in season 3, especially if people from some of those destroyed planets come after her. Because it's like, well, she did attack Earth too, but to be fair, it's like it was mainly her fighting with Clark, so it's like everyone knows like she's being brainwashed by Brainiac. Like, how much of that truth kind of got swept under the rug? I mean, she's reinvented herself as Supergirl, so people are like, the general public, how much do they know about it was Kara? Like, how many people got a good look at her when she like kidnapped Clark a couple episodes back? So stuff like that. So there's a lot of potential in a lot of ways, and this could all play out. So I'm excited to see what actually goes down in season 3. What new characters, what new developments, what new stories we ultimately end up getting. I'm very excited to find out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.